I want to come back to you now for a few final questions. And I think the topic being the understanding of Buddha nature in the Nyingma tradition, I want to just see whether we agree on some of the points, especially on the positions held by Rongzompa, Longchenpa, and Mipam, who happen today to be the representatives of the Nyingma scholarly world. So the topic you shared is Buddha by nature or Buddha by nurture.
Yes.
As for these three figures, I personally would say that they argue we are Buddha by nature. Is there any sort of hint that we are only Buddha by nature, or do you fully agree with that?
Sorry, did I understand correctly? Is there any hint that nurture, you mean?
Yes, we are Buddha by nurture and not by nature.
So this is your position.
These three people, yes. I think for the audience, it will give them some clarity as to where three people stand.
Interestingly, now I hope that I understood your position. Interestingly, all of these three guys seem to prefer, let us say, what I call nature model, but they do not reject the nurture model. Why? How do they do so? And Mipam would have said, Nesuda Nangsul, he would use the mode of existence and the mode of appearance. Things appear as if there is a causal mechanism of the, but if you go deep into the ontology, the soteriology, then you realize that this nurture model doesn't work really especially for Longchenpa and so on. So, but it is very clear that Rongzompa knew both of these models. He presupposes models, but then he seems to explain in the nature model in an inclusivistic way, in favor of a, nurture model in an inclusivistic way in favor of a nature model.
Yeah.
At the same time, accepting both models.
So this helps us also again explain their positions on what is definitive teaching and what is provisional teaching. What you said, if I heard you correctly, is that these three masters would say the nurture model is a provisional one. That the nature model, the Tathagata Garbha teachings that claim a primordial Buddhahood in us, is the definitive one.
Yes. And also you see now, maybe this is a little bit off, maybe it's not really off. You really come to the Rigdang Marik difference, or even let us look at Nagarjuna. Actually, Rongzompa is, I would like to call Rongzompa Tibet's Nagarjuna in every sense. So he seems to say that Nyangli Depa, you see, the relationship between Nyangde and the Korwa and Nyangde for Nagarjuna is, he said, in every regard, they are one. They're the two sides of the same coin, not the slightest difference, he says, right? Now, how would this work? So it is indeed saying, okay, the only model it seems to be that even Nagarjuna is presupposing is that when you penetrate the samsara and truly understand samsara in its true sense, you get nirvana, right? This is in Yukti Shastika he's saying, right? So if the true, correct understanding of samsara is nirvana, this is the soteriological foundation for Dzogchen in my view. If you don't get this, then we have the Dzogchen makes no sense whatsoever. So all of these three guys, as I said, before they are Madhyamikas, they are Dzogchenpas. So they are
Madhyamikas sorry. They are Madhyamikas only to make them better Dzogchenpas.
You can say in this way too.
Then there is this final one when it comes to characterizing them or classifying them into Rangtong and Shentong camps. As we discussed earlier, there are a lot of scholars, especially in the West, who have considered Longchenpa a Shentongpa, have considered Mipam a Shentongpa. I personally argue against that and consider Longchenpa a Rangtongpa and Mipam also a Rangtongpa. In fact, in his Sungdre, he explicitly claims that he is a Rangtongpa. And his defense of Shentong in his Shentong Singhi Ngaro is only as a sort of intellectual provocation or intellectual exercise, not so much his own position. So now when we talk about this Rangtong Chentong classification, I think it's quite actually difficult to even use these terms uniformly, even terms like Den Nampa or Dempa Dupa, they mean different things to different authors in different contexts. But earlier you brought up this topic of whether Buddha nature is tendril, dependently originated. I think that's a very clear sort of way of sort of categorically saying whether a scholar like Delpa Rongchenpa says Buddha nature is dependently originated or not. So using that yardstick, would you say Rongzompa is a Rangtongpa, arguing that Buddha nature lacks its self-existence, meaning Buddha nature is not dependently originated? Is dependently originated, I mean. And then Longchenpa also does the same thing as does Mipam.
I think in this regard, I suspect that they share the same position. And I would like to say, maybe, okay, you can prove me wrong. I mean, everybody can try to prove me wrong, is that this is exactly also the position of Nagarjuna, is that actually Temdel, even when you in my Vienna presentation, I tried to, but I don't have the time to now present all my evidences, is like there are all kind of categories of Temdel too. But the basic idea, without even using these categories, is even Nagarjuna, Dile Di Jung, like from this arises this arises this. This is only in a naive way you can accept this. But actually, he says, Kanji Kenlike, but they make, he says. So what we as you normally assume to be arising dependently, he's saying categorically there's actually no arising at all, right? And in this regard, Ganji Kenleke Pademake, this is so basic to understand the two-dimensional Pratitsamutpada for Nagarjuna, which is actually one and the same. And I think both Rongzompa, Longchenpa, and Mipam would agree on this understanding of the Temdel. And this is also one reason why I said this generation model would not work, because it is really like mirage water and the water. So if you really propose a nurture model or generation model, you have to say, yeah, there is a mirage water, and eventually we have to find a way to eliminate it with all kind of antidote or transform it. And they are saying, no, there is no way we can transform mirage water because there was no mirage water in the first place. So when you truly understand the indivisibility of this apparently two modes of reality as nothing but one, then you understand, you penetrate the true reality. So even the generation model and nature model doesn't apply anymore to the Dzogchen model, actually. It is a Rik-Damarik model, I would like to say. So if you Rik, and this, I really feel that this is also the model that is presupposed by Nagarjuna. So yeah, coming to summarize, I think with their regard to how they understand this two apparent dimensions of Pratitsamutpada as actually being only one, I think they would share. Maybe one should also understand, I forgot to mention that it was Professor Franz Karl Erhard in his study of Longchenpa. He said, one key concept that we often forget, but maybe many of us would get a heart attack. Why? What does he mean by this? He's saying, he's saying, yeah. Okay, if you study Dudra, and to say that you can imagine the kind of implication that we have, right? So, but he's categorically claiming. So, and that and Rongzompa's idea of, I think the mirage, I mean, through the example of mirage, this the same thing, or Shimit-Sadal is the same thing. So I think they all can be boiled down to the Shimit-Sadal kind of a concept.
So that's where you can see them depart from Shentongpa's like.
Yes, I forgot. I once traced a source by Dorji where he criticized the Shimit-Sadal concept, but I forgot where. I couldn't retrace it. I want to find it. Yeah, I thought he should criticize, because this is not in. This is not in consonant with his own philosophy. And indeed, I was very happy that he finds a problematic with this Shimit-Sadal concept. Yeah. So there they depart, I